Eddie Kitsis and Adam Horowitz are back with an enduring reboot of the classic Steven Spielberg anthology drama Amazing Stories. I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, and I'm here with Eddie and Adam to talk about this show. Now, guys, first of all, this series feels like it's really within your wheelhouse of speculative fiction, fantasy genre. Why do you go back to that kind of storytelling, Eddie, and in the projects that you take on?
I don't know. I think perhaps we're just drawn to that. I think there's just something that we like using genre as a metaphor for real world issues we're dealing with. This project, appealed to us, number one, because, as Adam and I always say, the reason we're in this business is Steven Spielberg. Watching his movies and the original Amazing Stories for us was what made both of us want to come out here and be writers. So the opportunity to not only reboot a show that inspired us, but work with the man who literally inspired us to come out here was a dream come true for us. So the minute they called, they said, "Would you be interested?" We said, "Absolutely."
Yeah, and I think we just love how genre can be used to explore character, and how in the case of Amazing Stories, the amazing be used to test and explore and reveal things about characters in hopefully unexpected and surprising ways.
Yeah, when the opening title sequence starts, and I heard that iconic John Williams theme song, I swear to you, I had goosebumps.
Yeah,
it immediately transported me back to my childhood in the mid-1980s. Like, I really couldn't believe how visceral it felt to hear that and to see it on the screen again. And I remember explaining it to my wife who were watching it together. She wasn't quite familiar with the show, and I was like, "Oh, you have to realize this is what Amazing Stories means to people like me." So, what was that, Adam, part of your process? Like, you thought, there was something about what that show meant to you back in the day to bring back.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, that was one of the first conversations we had, was that theme song had to be in it. That show meant a lot to us, and to me personally as a kid watching it. That idea that there was going to be a Steven Spielberg story in my living room every week was just beyond my little child brain's ability to comprehend. And then the fact that I got to work with him all these years later and bringing the show back, it's beyond my adult brain to comprehend. But that's another story. But yes, that iconic theme, and what that theme is, it represents so many different things. I mean, it's brilliant music by John Williams, but it also sort of conjures up a feeling. And that is something that we were after with this show, which is that feeling that Steven's been able to create throughout his career, that the kind of storytelling that he's done throughout his career, and it's this amazing ability to get to humanity and to get to also wonder and to be amazing. And that is sort of the bar we set with this show, which is, how do we do that today? And how do we bring that back? And what does that look like today? And that's what we tried to do with the show.
Yeah. Eddie, do you believe that in these crazy times that there's room for nostalgia? Like, that's part of the appeal of this show for me. It's nostalgia and how I feel like a kid again when I'm watching it, because it is, amazing without trying to be too puntastic. What do you feel like in terms of nostalgia, and what place that has in our day and age?
well, I think nostalgia, today is like eating a hamburger. It comforts you. And I think for us, we did not realize we would be premiering in a pandemic, but what we did feel like was the world felt unsettled. When we created Once Upon a Time, it was during the financial crisis, and we said we would love for a show to have some hope at the end. Because that's what we felt like we wanted to write about. And Amazing Stories kind of furthers that for us, because it's not just nostalgia, it's also what those stories did. Steven's stories always inspired you. It took an ordinary circumstance and then something extraordinary hits it, and you come out stronger on the other end. And I think that's collectively what the world is going through. And I think right now, at least for me personally, I'd rather sit down and watch something I know that will that is more uplifting and hopeful than something dark and bleak, because I'm not sure I could take much more right now.
I think that's like something just thematically as writers we've discovered about ourselves as we've gone on through our career and writing stuff, which is that it's not that we shy away from things that are dark or have darkness in it, but what we do shy away from is bleakness, that we always look for some amount of hope in everything, and that we like to find ways to tell stories where there is hope within it, and that there is a light at the end of the tunnel in some way. And then in Amazing Stories, I think we found a show where we were able to take what Steven created all those years ago and find a way, working with him today, to tell stories about characters in the world today in contemporary settings, where we start, and I think this was sort of a guiding principle with all of them. We start in a place where we start in a very ordinary place with these characters, finding them in very ordinary circumstances, and let something really amazing come into their lives that really shifts the way they look at the world by the end of it, and hopefully the way the audience looks at the world at the end of it.
Yeah. Looking back over your other credits, and especially this show, I can't tell you how many people that I've spoken to over the years that have said how much they appreciate your particular aesthetic and how you don't shy away from being hopeful and not having to go necessarily down this road that we see in pop culture, where a lot of things are super dark and maybe they're ironic, or there's always like another kind of cutting edge element that you don't care about, and that's really refreshing. But do you think that not enough credit is given to that type of aesthetic in today's pop culture?
I mean, you got enough credit?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's very hard. We're in a world now where the cynicism takes over. So sometimes something that is considered hopeful or gets written off as being precious or mawkish or sentimental. But it's not, a story can be really dark. It's just at the end, we want to allow a sliver of hope, no matter what the character went through. And I think that, in today's world, people like that. And I think that you're seeing that more and more right now, of people wanting to come together to watch things that make them feel good at the end of it, instead of like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. And I think what we tried to strive for was, I can't believe they did that, followed by, I feel better about myself. But I wish that people would embrace that more and understand that, something that is hopeful or inspiring, can be just as valid as something that has an anti-hero who kills people.
But I do think audiences do. A lot of audiences do, whether consciously or not, embrace hopefulness in what they choose to consume. I think audiences have a vast, degree of I think their palette is vast. I think they consume all sorts of things. And I think that whether they, will consciously say, oh, I want something hopeful, I don't know that they think in those terms. But I think that, they will go to that type of entertainment as much as they will go to the darker, cynical stuff, or the stuff that is, a little bleaker, or a little more directly reflecting the times or the things that, society is going through. But I think that if you look, historically, there's always been a place for hopefulness.
Yeah, I mean, one of our favorite movies that Adam and I bonded over in college was Sullivan's Travels. And we just loved at the end of the day, the guy realized, I need to write something funny. And I think that is so much of the writer's journey, at least for some of us. It's like you want to write something big and important, and then sometimes at the day, your most successful thing is the thing that just makes people smile.
Yeah, and it's so rare. It's something that genuinely does make you feel good. I was thinking, from what I was reading, you both joined the project in early 2018 as showrunners.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, talk us through how this landed on your desks as something you wanted to do, and what involvement did Steven Spielberg have?
So in early 2018, it was in early February, we made an announcement that Once Upon a Time was ending. And Eddie and I had decided that we were going to take a break after 7 years of doing the show and not do anything for a little while and rest, because we'd done 7 years, 156 episodes, and we were, we wanted a break and didn't want to jump into just the next thing. But then we got a call that
because I said we're not taking the first call that comes in. We're really going to do it. We're taking our time off. And the first call?
The first call was, would you guys be interested in considering being showrunners for Steven Spielberg on Amazing Stories? And the guys who run Amblin Entertainment, Daryl Frank and Justin Falvey, who we'd known for a while, had contacted, and Apple, and the execs at Apple had contacted our representatives and said that they were interested in that. Steven had been told about us and was interested in getting on the phone with us. And when we heard that, we could not say no to that. Steven Steven's one of the main reasons we're in this business. He's been a lifelong hero of ours, and we grew up on his films and influenced so much of what we did. So we got on the phone with him.
So that first call, Adam and I, had once hoped to get a selfie with Steven. We never actually thought we would get a meeting, let alone work with him. So Justin and Dale arranged a phone call. We're in our offices at Disney, and I remember we were sitting on the phone, and then all of a sudden, Steven's assistant, we hear this hold for Steven. And it was as if all of time slowed down, and I just looked at Adam and I said, fake it. And we just did our best to pretend we weren't on the phone with Steven. We talked about the show. We hung up the phone, and we were so jacked up, we started walking around the Disney lot, like doing laps. And Justin and Daryl called us, and they go, guys, really good job. That was Steven's impersonator. We just wanted to make sure you weren't too frightened. The real call is tomorrow. And we said, okay, what time? And they go, no, guys, that was a joke. That was Steven. We're doing this. But we were so nervous from talking to him that we could not accept the fact that we really talked to him and we were about to go work with him.
It was so unusual and weird, because it's like I've watched interviews with him over the years and seen him on television and at award shows and on television throughout my entire life, and then to be speaking with him and then speaking with him creatively about a project, it took a bit to just kind of get out of myself for a second and get into it. And for both of us, and then not even really even hearing him at the end when he said, all right, guys, let's do this. And then of course we couldn't say no. And why would we? It was a dream. And an even bigger part of the dream was he was really involved in a fantastic way. So we set up the show in very much like in a traditional television series. We opened a writer's room, we hired writers, and we would break story. But where it was a little different is we would meet with Steven. Eddie and I would sit with him on a regular basis, and we would pitch him the story ideas, and Steven would have ideas, and we would go back and forth. And we'd have creative meetings with him, and he would have ideas, and we'd have ideas, and we'd go back and forth. And every story idea would go through him. But at every phase of the process, he would be involved, whether it was the story idea or when we would write outlines or scripts, or when we got to production and the directors would present their vision for the episode, or we would do casting and he would watch the auditions, or the dailies would come in and he would watch the dailies, or the cuts would come in and he'd come in the editing room, or he'd give notes on the cuts. I mean, the whole way through. I mean, it was amazing.
This really was his, Steven, created Amazing Stories, so this is his baby. And what was fun for us is when you work with Steven, you realize, like, this isn't a job, it's fun for him. You know,
Yeah.
he was prepping his next movie, and when Steven comes in, and you see the joy in his face, he's like, like a great basketball player who just loves to play, and that's Steven. And so you would get so inspired from leaving these meetings because you're with somebody who, still loves to talk stories, still loves to talk movies, still loves to create, and he really pushes you to use your imagination. And I feel like inspires you to really kind of be the best you can be. I know definitely that we became better writers from our experience with him.
Look, we've been doing this for a little while, but we learned a ton. And we went into it, and I think the attitude we tried to take is we're still learning. And then we try to take that always, but especially with Steven, it was like, okay, let's absorb everything we can because there's no one like this. There really isn't. And it's true. And within a minute working with him, you see it, you understand why he is who he is and why he's had the success he has had and why he is the icon he is, because he sees story and he sees filmmaking like no one else does. And it's unbelievable.
I know. I wonder if he realizes just how special he actually is to so many people, both professionally and creatively, and just in terms of as fans. But I also wonder when I speak to people who collaborate over a long period of time, it's really interesting to see the dynamic between the two of you. You guys have worked together for a very long time professionally. What is it about that professional partnership that works? Because it looks like it does, and it looks like it's not going to end anytime soon. Like, Eddie, what's the secret to this professional partnership with Adam?
I think the secret was we were friends first. So our desire to write was through friendship and two friends who met in college in a film class. So we never were, so we learned how to write together. We moved out to LA together. We wrote our first script together, which was a Simpsons spec, then a Larry David spec. And we got Sid Field and we just started doing it. So now, 20 years later, we don't know how to write alone. This is how it works. And I gotta be honest, I wouldn't want to write alone. It wouldn't be fun. There wouldn't be somebody to push you or bounce ideas off of. So Adam and I, we kind of had this weave where if you went back and you pulled any script that we wrote and you said whose idea was this, neither one of us would be able to tell you because neither of us, has any idea. We're just one unit that kind of weaves together.
Yeah, I think we've reached the point where I think you want to get with a writing partnership where there really is no ego in the partnership, meaning a win's a win and success is a success. And I'm just as happy when Eddie comes up with a good idea as he is if I come up with a good idea. And it's there's none of that. And I think that helps. And I think it's we've been doing it together for so long. I think it really is the only way we know how to do it. And I think, and as Eddie said, we started as friends, but I think we also started really from, and I don't want this to sound pretentious, and I apologize if it does, is it started from really just a pure love of movies and television. Like when we were in college, we used to just sit and watch laser discs, and for kids who don't know what that are, is they were the precursor to DVDs and then the precursor to downloading and streaming and all that. But we would just sit and watch endlessly movies and TV shows and just absorbing anything and everything we could over and over because we loved it and we just wanted to make stuff. And that's all, we just wanted to make stuff. And it wasn't about we wanted to make money or get famous or do any of that. We just really, on some pure level, wanted to make stuff together before we decided we wanted to come to Hollywood and try to make it in the business. So it was that's how it started. And I think that's what served us well because that thing, whatever that is still in us from when we were in college all those years together.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. But we could talk about your great work on Once Upon a Time and how that ended. And also, a lot of people remember that you, one of your big breakthroughs was your work on ABC's Lost, which is now seen as like a classic. But I actually wanted to talk about something in the future, given Amazing Stories is going on now, but you are working on the pilot to a spin-off of the 2017 Disney live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast with Josh Gad, which is super exciting for a lot of us who really love that animated film and also the remake. What can you tell us about that, Eddie, about working on that project?
Well, we can't say much just because it's just a pilot right now. There's nothing, for sure about it, like anything in Hollywood. But what we can tell you is we're doing a the idea is for it to be a six episode limited series that we're creating with Josh Gad. And Luke Evans and Josh will be reprising the roles as Gaston and LeFou. And we're very lucky to have Alan Menken come and do the music. So, that's what we're doing during this quarantine right now, is writing that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that sounds really, really exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully Disney Plus will pick it up. Now, thank you so much for your time, guys. Really, really, I'm happy to see Amazing Stories back on my TV, and good luck in this very crazy time. Hopefully we can see more of your work over the coming months.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, thanks for having us. It was nice to see you.
You too. Now, everybody, while you're at home doing not much at all, you can go to goldderby.com, make your predictions, click subscribe, and watch all of our chats, because we've got heaps of them and they're all really, really cool.